Welcome to the first Splendid Sampler machine quilting tutorial. I'm going to show you some hints for echo quilting. It's an effective quilting technique that can be used in areas of your Splendid Sampler quilt as well as on many of your other quilting projects. I used Pat Sloan's Hearts of Flutter block, the very first block we have for the Splendid Sampler. And I chose Pat Sloan's Hometown Girl fabric. It's really yummy. I quilted it using Aurifil 50 weight cotton thread in colors that match the block, so the threads won't stand out a lot, but they'll hold your quilt together beautifully. You can see the echo quilting on here. I've chosen to do a 1/4 inch line inside of the heart, as well as a series of 1/4 inch lines outside of the heart. I'm going to show you how to make this effect on your quilt today, using my Handy Quilter Sweet 16. Her name is Hazel, and she and I spend many happy hours together. I'm using a 1/4 inch foot, which means there's a 1/4 inch distance between the needle and the edge of the foot, and that 1/4 inch can really help me determine where my lines are going to be, and I'll show you how effective that can be in helping me echo quilt. Now I want to stress that echo quilting is not a series of perfect lines. It will not look like it was done by an embroidery machine. They will not be perfect. They're free motion quilting lines, and the 1/4 inch foot simply helps me judge my distance. So I'm going to start inside of the heart. I don't always quilt on my applique, but I am going to here since this is a rather large piece of applique. So I'm going to put my foot 1/4 of an inch inside of the heart, which means the edge of my foot is on the edge of the heart and my needle's a 1/4 inch inside. And I'm going to bring up my bobbin thread here, just starting in the cleft. Now I can either take a few small stitches to start my quilting, or I can leave these tails and deal with them later. And by dealing with them later, I mean I would tie them by hand and thread them through the eye of a needle and tuck them inside of my quilt when I'm done. So while I'm quilting, I'm going to try to keep the outside edge of my foot along my heart applique. And what I'm watching is the edge of the heart and the edge of the foot, but what I'm really thinking about is this point right here on my heart. I want to end 1/4 inch inside of my heart. I want to make this in one continuous line of stitching. I don't want to start and stop because I can get little jutters in there, and it won't be a smooth curve. And I also don't need to go super fast, and I don't need to go super slow. I just want to be deliberate but smooth. So here I am. I'm watching so that the edge of the foot is following the edge of the heart, and I'm trying to take one continuous line to the point. And now I'm going to stop, and I'm going to breathe and blink and shake my shoulders. And when I'm ready to quilt again, I'm going to watch so that the edge of my foot is along the edge of the heart here, and stitch until I reach back up to where I started. I'm thinking of this as one long continuous stitch. And here I'm going to just take a couple extra stitches for the demo so I can get rid of the threads. I'm going to pull my fabric away, bring up my bobbin thread, and trim it. So that's a great look inside of my heart, but echo quilting is also a great look as background quilting. It can really fill in your background areas. So I'm going to do this again. And here I'm putting my foot so that it's resting on the outside of the applique, and my needle's a 1/4 inch inside. Pull up my bobbin thread here. Again, I'm going to watch the edge of my foot along the edge of the heart, but this time from the outside, and I'm aiming to stop right here, which is 1/4 of an inch outside the edge of the point of my heart. If you can't see it, if you can't see with your eye and guess where that 1/4 inch is, it's okay to measure it and put a mark right here if you need to. So I'm following it. It's not perfect, but it's giving me a general guideline. Stopping here. And now I can restart, thinking about ending here while following the outside of my heart. Take a couple stitches. Trim my threads again. I'm going to do one more line of stitching just to show you that I don't need to rest the edge of my foot along the edge of the heart. I can rest the edge of my foot along my previously stitched line. So I'm going to start a 1/4 inch outside of the cleft of the heart. And here, if you've noticed as you're stitching, if you have a wobble or two, here's where you can kind of start to straighten it out. If instead of following that line perfectly, you may hold your stitching line, your next stitching line, a little straighter, and it can kind of correct a few of your bobbles. So I'm going to stitch out here, putting the edge of my foot along my previously stitched line, all the way down to the point. Now this ran off the edge of my fabric into my batting, which is fine at the edge of my quilt. On the block that would have been inside of the quilt, there may be some sashing or some other fabric. I may have to stop in the seam allowance, do a little bit of stitch in the ditch over, move over, and then start back up again. So here I'm following it 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Not perfect. I wasn't able to keep my hands for one continuous line. I had to reposition, but I ended at the top. Take a couple small stitches. Pull up that bobbin thread. And do one more showing you how to fill in some of the background. Again, having my foot on the edge of the stitched line, my needle 1/4 of an inch in. Stitching around. And if I have a seam here where my next piece of fabric is, I may stitch in the ditch 1/4 of an inch over until the back of my foot here is on the previously stitched line and come back up. Same thing here, I can do some stitch in the ditch if there's a little bit of a seam here until the back of my foot's on my previously stitched line. And fill in all of my background that way. And again, you can see how I did that here on the block I made with Hometown Girl. I have the lines going, filling in all of the background here, as well as outlining the inside of my heart. Now these lines are approximately 1/4 of an inch, but if I wanted different size lines, I could pull different size feet for the Sweet 16. I have some Echo feet at 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and I could let these feet help me make lines of a different size. So I hope that you've learned a few hints for echo quilting that you can use to quilt your Splendid Sampler quilt or any other project you might be working on. Thanks for watching the first video. Follow along with the Splendid Sampler and sign up for my Debbie Brown Quilts newsletter so you don't miss the next machine quilting tutorial. Thanks!